After years of intense civil war, Julius Caesar's dominance over the Roman Republic was nearing its final stages. While Caesar had decisively defeated Pompey the Great at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BCE and pursued Pompey's allies across the Mediterranean, pockets of resistance still remained. One of the last bastions of opposition to Caesar lay in North Africa, where the remnants of Pompey's supporters, including Metellus, Scipio, and King Juba of Numidia, sought to resist Caesar's control. This conflict would culminate in the Battle of Thapsus, a critical engagement that effectively brought an end to organised resistance against Caesar in Africa. The build-up to the Battle of Thapsus began with the regrouping of Pompeian forces in North Africa. After Pharsalus, many of Pompey's loyalists fled to the region, where they found refuge under the protection of King Juba a staunch ally of Pompey. Juba, who ruled the Numidian kingdom, had long harboured animosity towards Caesar. The two had clashed in earlier campaigns, and Juba had aligned himself with the Senate's conservative faction, which was largely opposed to Caesar's ambitions. After the defeat of Pompey, Juba became one of the leading figures in the anti-Caesarian resistance, working alongside Metellus Scipio, the appointed commander of the remaining Republican forces. Metellus Scipio, a former consul and one of the staunchest supporters of the Senate's cause, had fled to Africa after the defeat at Pharsalus. He quickly established a base of operations in the city of Thapsus, located near modern-day Tunisia. The Pompeian forces in Africa were bolstered by Juba's Numidian cavalry, as well as Roman legions that had once fought for Pompey. Despite the loss of their leader, the Republican forces still held out hope that they could turn the tide against Caesar with the support of local allies and the strategic advantages of the North African landscape. As news of the Pompeian regrouping in North Africa reached Caesar, he decided to bring the fight to his enemies once more. Having secured victory in Egypt and neutralized the threat posed by Pharnaces the Second in Pontus, Caesar now turned his attention to Africa. He sailed from Sicily in December 47 BCE, landing in North Africa with a large force composed of seasoned legions, veterans from earlier campaigns, and fresh recruits eager to prove themselves. Caesar's army was well supplied and motivated, and Caesar himself was determined to crush the remnants of the Republican forces once and for all. Upon arriving in Africa, Caesar's initial encounters with the Pompeian forces were skirmishes and smaller engagements. The Republicans, under Metellus Scipio's command, sought to delay Caesar's advance, using guerrilla tactics and attempting to draw him into the difficult desert terrain. However, Caesar, ever the strategist, refused to be drawn into a protracted campaign in the desert. Instead, he focused on forcing a decisive engagement near the city of Thapsus, where the Republican forces had concentrated their strength. By April 46 BCE, both armies were ready for battle. Caesar's forces, numbering around 60,000 men, were composed of several legions, including veterans of his campaigns in Gaul and the Civil War. These were seasoned troops who had fought under Caesar's command for years and were well versed in his strategies and tactics. Opposing them was a mixed force of Pompeian legions, Numidian cavalry, and local levies, led by Metellus Scipio and supported by King Juba's Numidian army. One of the key advantages held by the Republican forces was their elephant corps, a formidable unit that had been supplied by Juba. These war elephants were intended to break through Caesar's lines and cause panic among his infantry. The use of elephants in ancient warfare was often a psychological tactic as much as a physical one. The sight and sound of these massive creatures could terrify even the most disciplined soldiers. However, Caesar had faced war elephants before, most notably during his campaigns in Spain and Gaul, and he was not unprepared for this challenge. The battle began with both armies arrayed across the plains outside Thapsus. Caesar, as always, took personal command of his forces, positioning his legions in a traditional Roman formation with infantry in the centre and cavalry on the wings. Caesar's right wing was particularly strong, consisting of elite cohorts and a contingent of archers and slingers whose role would be crucial in dealing with the elephants. Metellus, Scipio and King Juba, on the other hand, deployed their forces in a defensive posture, hoping to lure Caesar into a frontal assault that would play into their strength. Caesar, however, had no intention of falling into such a trap. Recognizing the threat posed by the elephants, he ordered his archers and light infantry to target the animals with arrows and javelins, aiming to wound and disorient them before they could charge the Roman lines. This strategy proved effective, as the elephants, once injured and panicked, turned back toward their own lines, causing confusion and chaos among the Republican ranks. Some of the elephants charged into the Numidian cavalry, breaking their formation and leaving a gap in the Pompeian defences. With the elephants neutralised, Caesar ordered a full advance. His legions surged forward, their shields locked in formation, as they marched across the battlefield toward the enemy. The Numidian cavalry, now disorganised and leaderless, attempted to regroup, but it was too late. Caesar's cavalry, led by his trusted lieutenants, swept around the enemy's flanks, cutting down any who attempted to flee. The Republican infantry, now fully exposed, fought desperately to hold their ground, but they were no match for the discipline and experience of Caesar's legions. Caesar himself was in the thick of the fighting, rallying his troops and directing the assault with his usual energy and charisma. As the battle raged, it became clear that Metellus, Scipio and King Juba had lost control of their forces. Their army began to disintegrate under the relentless pressure of Caesar's attack. As Caesar's forces closed in on the Republican stronghold at Thapsus, Metellus Scipio attempted a final stand. However, his efforts were in vain. The Roman legions, now fully committed to the assault, breached the city's defences and overran the remaining resistance. Metellus Scipio, realizing that defeat was imminent, chose to take his own life rather than face capture by Caesar. King Juba, too, fled the battlefield, only to be killed shortly afterward. The Republican cause in North Africa was effectively crushed, and with it, any hope of continuing the civil war against Caesar. The Battle of Thapsus was a decisive and bloody engagement, with estimates suggesting that over 10,000 Pompeian soldiers were killed in the fighting. Caesar's forces, by contrast, suffered relatively few casualties, a testament to the superiority of their tactics and training. For Caesar, the victory at Thapsus was a significant step toward consolidating his control over the Roman Republic. With the defeat of the Pompeian forces in Africa, only a few scattered remnants of resistance remained, most notably in Spain, where Gnaeus Pompeius, the son of Pompey the Great, would continue the fight. In the aftermath of the battle, Caesar showed little mercy to his enemies. Many of the surviving Republican commanders were captured and executed, including Faustus Cornelius Sulla, the son of the former dictator Lucius Cornelius Sulla. King Juba's territory was annexed by Rome, and Numidia was reorganized as a Roman province. Caesar's harsh treatment of his defeated foes at Thapsus marked a departure from his earlier policy of clemency, which he had extended to many of his opponents after Pharsalus. Perhaps the prolonged civil war and the personal animosities that had developed during the conflict had hardened Caesar's resolve. The consequences of the Battle of Thapsus were far-reaching. With the defeat of the Pompeian forces in North Africa, Caesar was now the undisputed master of the Roman world. His victory paved the way for his return to Rome, where he would be hailed as a hero and granted unprecedented honours, including the title of Dictator Perpetuo, or Dictator for life. However, this concentration of power would also sow the seeds of his eventual downfall, as many in the Senate feared that Caesar's ambition would lead to the end of the Republic. For now, though, Caesar's dominance was complete. The Battle of Thapsus marked the end of organised resistance to his rule in Africa, and with his enemies defeated, Caesar could turn his attention to the final stages of the civil war. The victory at Thapsus was a testament to Caesar's military genius and his ability to inspire loyalty and discipline among his troops. It was also a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, Caesar's legions remained one of the most formidable military forces in the ancient world. The Battle of Thapsus stands as a pivotal moment in Caesar's rise to power, and a key turning point in the history of Rome. With this victory, the path was clear for Caesar to return to Rome and shape the future of the Republic, for better or for worse.